This time on Books That Changed My Life.
You know, Dilla was somebody who reconciled swung time with straight time to create a whole new time feel. And he did it with an MPC drum machine. And he made a drum machine sound human.
There's guys like Dilla that approach music as an expression of art, not trying to write a hit.
And it changed my programming, especially at the time I read it, coming off the heels of season 1 of Bel-Air. It's like, I needed that reminder. And I think as artists, it's our job to make things that we feel are worth existing and living with the result.
So that feeling led you to write, I Can Make a Movie?
This to me is more than a children's book. What I hope to achieve while I'm on this earth is to build bridges through this art that I love.
Big question, how did Dilla Time by Dan Charnas change your life?
It's a book that
Welcome to the Syndicate X Library, where we love books, especially books that have changed lives. We have a very special guest with us today. He's the writer, director, and creator behind Bel-Air, a reimagination of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's also a passionate reader, and most recently, the author of I Can Make a Movie, which is available now. He's here to talk about the book that changed his life, Dilla Time by Dan Charnas. Please welcome to the show, Morgan Stevenson Cooper.
How would you describe the book?
magical.
Magical?
I would describe the book innovative, I think is one word that comes to mind. Dan just does such a good job in the book of reconciling like what Dilla's innovation was to music, what James DeWitt Yancey's contribution to music as a whole, but also there's incredible Detroit history in it. There's incredible Black music history in the book that, you know, contextualizes Dilla's contribution to music and art as a whole. And, you know, Dilla was somebody who reconciled swung time with straight time to create a whole new time feel. And he did it with an MPC drum machine. And he made a drum machine sound human. And he was just being himself. And little did he realize that he changed music forever. And all of a sudden, he's innovating this in Conant Gardens in Detroit in his basement. And half the industry, you know, was using his sound. And it's still, you know, oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Would you order a latte?
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
It's a big latte.
It will be the best latte you've ever had.
Listen,
Go ahead,
with
try it.
a cup like this, I have no doubt. I'm just appreciative because I haven't had coffee today. Anyway, I was getting off on like this whole like Dilla
Wait,
thing.
how would you rate the latte?
Damn good.
Okay, that's enough.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're talking about somebody who broke the mold and followed their own path in a sense, even when it came to J Dilla's like reaction or approach to record companies and suits and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think like, well, maybe I should describe it through the lens of like how it affected me, right? You know, Dilla grew up in Conant Gardens, Detroit, and so he has all this Motown influence. His father was in the music scene in Detroit, DeWitt Yancey, Beverly DeWitt Yancey, his father, and his mother was an opera singer, Maureen Yancey, and you know, so he's growing up around all these different influences. You know, he steps outside and it's like you're hearing Motown, you know, everywhere you go, but in the house, they're playing all kinds of music. They're playing Miles Davis. This is what Dan talks about in the book. And by the way, big shout out to Dan Charnas. Like, this is like master level journalism and just like, it's just exceptionally well written. And so like, I think the inspiration just behind the quality of his work is also something that has had a big impact on me. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, and it's a dense book written in a cool style.
Yeah, so you've read it.
It's rhythmic, really kind of in the style, right?
It's rhythmic.
Don't you think?
1,000%. It's funny, I just went off on a whole thing and you summed it up in one word, rhythmic. It's got a pulse to it.
But it's rare that a writer can use a style that represents the subject in that way, right?
Well, and that's the magic of Dan's work is Dan is a beat maker too. And I've had a chance to spend time with Dan, and we've become friends, you know, since the book's publication and learning more about him. He's like a music historian. He makes beats, he made beats, he's been in the music business for so long that only a guy like that with that deep of an appreciation can take a book like this and, like you said, give it a pulse, you know? So yeah, it's a great word for it.
Did he tell you what his inspiration was? Like why he decided to write it? Because he clearly was this years of his life?
Yeah. Yeah, years.
It's a lot of work. Like these sort of books don't happen by accident. Like there's a certain commitment and a lot of, you know, dedication and work that goes into it.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I don't want to speak for Dan, but I will say just in the conversations that we've had, it's, you know, he met Dilla. Like he actually like went to the basement, and anybody who's ever like based off, and it's in the book and Dan talks about it, but it's like visiting, you know, like Mecca, you know, for like these people, and you had to go to Dilla. You had to go, and he would make his beats, and you would wait for him to finish what he was cooking. And as Dan describes it in the book so well, like he let out a woo, and that's when, you know, Dilla would be ready to share something with you. And like Dan got to experience that. And I think Dan told me that he went to Mongolian barbecue with him. Like he spent time with Dilla in Conant Gardens. And so like he got the firsthand account of his brilliance, of seeing the mastery in which he used the machine. Like he was there. And, you know, I've always loved Dilla since I first started listening to his music in high school, or as a teenager, as, you know, really when I was 12 is when I was first introduced to Dilla sound. But it was really hard to find information on Dilla before this book. He was always kind of this mystery man, you know, this genius. And, you know, there'd be interviews, there are a couple of interviews online, but it was hard to like understand like his life and like give context to like this incredible music he was making. And, you know, Dan, just through incredible journalism and a commitment to making sure that Dilla's legacy was respected and upheld at the, you know, he's like Mozart, like for real, like Miles, Mozart, all these people who changed music. It's like James Yancey deserves to be held in that regard. And Dan is a big part of why people today understand that sound. So
when was the first time you like were aware of Dilla?
Donuts. You know, my brother came back from college when I was 12, and he played me 2 records. He played me Madvillainy. Do you know about that record?
Mm-mm.
So that's MF Doom and Madlib, you know, formed a group together called Madvillain. And they released Madvillainy on Stone's Throw. I think it was in either 2003 or 2004. But he comes back from college with this old ass iPod. Yo, Morgan, listen to this. And I put it in, and it changed my programming. Like, I was like, what the fuck is this? You know, it's like incredible. And
what is it that changed? What about it changed your programming?
You know, growing up in Kansas City, it's like you're exposed to like a lot of local, right? And so you're growing up listening to like Rich the Factor and like all these like local rappers, but we're also listening to like Dipset. You know, Jeezy was huge when I was in middle school, Young Jeezy, you know, clap, clap, like all those sounds, like we're getting that in the middle of the map. And on the outside of that, you had the underground. And Dilla was a part of that. And when he played me Madvillainy, it was the first time I remember the first time I heard it. I didn't necessarily like it, but yes, I did. I really, really liked it, but I didn't understand it because it was so foreign. I'm like, this breaks all format of the stuff that I heard on 106 in Park after school every day. The first song, like the intro is just like a collage of different sounds, and like, you know, it was just so animated, and it didn't take itself too seriously, but it was so elite with the lyricism of Doom on that record and Madlib's production and sequencing on that record. And I'm 12 years old. I'm not like, I couldn't break it down at the time, but I knew it was something different. And I found myself listening to it every day and falling deeper and deeper in love with that record. And till this day, I have to listen to that record once a month. It's like required because it was so honest. Yeah.
So I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to take a shot at trying to kind of describe the difference is, in a sense, a lot of music, although it's art, is more formulaic. And as music became digital and drum machines were introduced, things became a little more perfect and kind of predictable.
Yeah.
And then there's guys like Dilla that approach music as an expression of art, not trying to write a hit.
Yeah, that's exactly
would that
right.
be a good way to kind of try to explain it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's art.
Yeah, and I think like record companies certainly didn't help that, right?
No, they want a hit.
Yeah, they want a hit.
And they want it predictable and formulaic.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I don't think everything has to be for everyone. And I think that's coming back to like why this book has such a big impact is like Dilla made the music that he felt. And I think as artists, it's our job to make things that we feel are worth existing and living with the result. And reading that, I think, especially at the time I read it, coming off the heels of season 1 of Bel-Air, it's like I needed that reminder stepping into this, this new chapter of my career. And these last 3 years, and especially the last like 18 months, and this is a book that I always go back to now. It's a big part of.
Is that your original copy?
Yeah.
It's
kind of fucked up.
No,
at the top of the years, when
it's got life.
Yeah, I know, but
I love it.
Yeah.
Do you highlight?
Yeah, there's some highlighting in there.
Do you feel like I'm intruding on?
No, it's all good.
Is this too intimate?
Nah, it's cool. Do your thing. I just didn't want Dan to see this cover all fucked up. But like, it was a mad scramble when the fires were going on because they were encroaching on my crib.
And this is what you took?
Well, yeah, it was one of the first things I grabbed, and I'm like packing frantically, and like the front cover, you can see it got a little ripped.
Yeah,
but it's hanging on. Yeah,
you could.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
So you highlight. We're very similar.
Yeah.
In the style. That's amazing.
Yeah. Thanks, man. And this is my children's book. Well, just the cover. I did want to share this with you though. Because Dan was it's not a 1-to-1. Obviously, this is about J Dilla, but it was inspiring. I wanted to step into telling stories through literature this way.
What's the intention? So your book is I Can Make a Movie.
Yeah.
And it's a children's book. What is the intention of the book?
I'm so glad you asked. The intention, well, it's just a context. It's about a young girl named Nora Rose who is on a quest to make her first movie in Kansas City with the help of her brother, her mom, and her 2 cousins. And they go on this like movie making adventure. But underneath the surface, the intention behind it is to communicate to kids to be decision makers. Especially at a time when they're bombarded with media telling them what to think, what to wear, how to look. Everything is all about messaging. Be more like this, be more like this, be more like this. But the act of making a movie is an act of decision making, right? So this is my way, this is my offering to tell kids to think critically, learn to problem solve, and make decisions. Because when you're making a movie, it's, that's my day job, right? When you're sitting in that director's chair, you're making thousands of micro decisions a day, thousands, and they all affect this bigger idea. And you really learn to think for yourself. And you have to be able to block out the noise and say, this is what I want to do. And I want all kids to know that. Like, make decisions for yourself, believe in what you have to say. And this is my offering and how to communicate that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
So in that creative process, Dilla has been a huge influence on you when you were looking for some sort of guidance.
Yeah, just to context even more, it came on the heels of season 1 of my show Bel-Air. And
so maybe let's go through the story of that. So
yeah, sure.
the way that I've heard the story, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is you made a short of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that was more on the serious side.
Yeah, reimagined as a drama, a modern day drama. Yeah.
And so it was kind of your expression of it in a sense.
Yeah.
Right? And what was the inspiration behind that?
It's just something I felt.
And so you put it out And
Yeah.
then it got noticed, right?
Yeah, just I'll give you a quick snapshot, and then we'll pick right up where you're going. So I was in Kansas City. This was late 2017, and at the time I was working as a professional cinematographer, but I wanted to pivot into writing, directing, and so I was taking commercial money and funding my own short films because I wanted to break in and amplify my voice at the highest level. And one of the downloads I got while I was driving down the road in Kansas City, I was on 71 highway and drove under this bridge, and boom, I get hit with this vision to reimagine the Fresh Prince as this drama. I have no idea why this vision hit me, but I had the idea and I was really compelled, and I decided, I felt in my heart, this is what I need to do. And so we make the short film. We drop it March 10th, 2019. In less than 48 hours, Will Smith's company reaches out and says, we love this and we want to talk to you about it. So I go to Calabasas the next day, and Will's on FaceTime. He was down in Miami doing Bad Boys 3 at the time. He had like prosthetics and shit on his face. And he was like, yo, man, like, I love this. What do you want to do with it? And I pitched him my vision. I was ready to share this idea of adapting it into a 1-hour drama. And the rest is history. We started developing it. We got into a deal, and we just wrapped season 4. So we're in post on that right now.
So coming off of season 1, how are you feeling? This
Yeah, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
Explain.
It was a dream come true to, have created a show with somebody I've looked up to for so long, in Will, but also like, I'm an artist, man. It's like, I'm an artist, and like success is great, and everybody wants success in whatever you're doing, but like, a big part of success to me is like feeling creatively challenged and creatively fulfilled. And, this was 2022, late 2021 when we released, 2022, top of Q1 2022, when we dropped season 1, and it does very well. But by that point, man, 2022, I told you I had this idea in 2017, right? That's 4 years of my life committed to this idea and like carrying that weight. My cousin Charlie had just passed, fuck, man. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna hold it to appreciate it, man. Yeah, man. When we shot it, the short, the very first location was at my cousin Charlie's house, and he let me use his space, to shoot a scene in there. And I was so excited about Charlie coming out visiting set once the show got set up. And, he died 2 weeks before I shot the pilot. And it really left a big hole in my heart.
How did he die?
Pancreatic cancer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, and he was battling it for, 8 months. And I was out in LA, he was back in Kansas City, and we're developing this show. I wrote and directed the pilot. It's like, there's so much to do in that job that it was so hard to break away. And I felt so much guilt for so long, because like, as my dream is coming true, it's like, that's my guy, and he's dying. And it's just, anyway. So we get to the end of season 1, and it comes out, and, I'm still carrying that, obviously. And also,
are you kind of doing it for him in a way, or he's in there?
Yeah, he is. In fact, Jazz's record store in the show is called Charlie's Vinyl, and we named it after my cousin. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's my guy.
So you finished season 1.
Yeah, so
and you have that in your head, and then is there like a feeling of accomplishment, but also a feeling of like emptiness because now it's done?
Yeah, so I guess from a creative perspective, it's like Bel-Air wasn't my only idea. I've always been an ideas guy, and all of these ideas are like, they're like my children, right? So to speak, you love them all and you want to see them all grow. But like, I've got this big piece of business through Bel-Air, and I've invested so much time into this project, and, I'm ready to do these other things. And at that time, it's like, I'm going back and forth with my reps of like, should I really double down on like television and like, doing the things that like other people think I should do now that I have a successful show? Or should I invest in these other ideas, and
Do you have enough money to make that choice? Or was this more of a labor of love?
what do you mean?
Doing the Fresh Prince? Like, do you have enough money now to go do other stuff when you were done with it? Or
Yeah, well, it wasn't
Yeah.
about money. It was just about what felt right and not being pressured to do things just because everybody else thinks you should do it or you're the Bel-Air guy.
Right.
It's like Bel-Air is one of many ideas, and I'm so proud of that show. I'm so proud of it. I'm proud of the work that we've done, and I love that show, and I'm so proud of it. But it's not the only idea I have, and I think I'm somebody that's called to bring a lot of ideas into the world and inspire others through my ideas and, tell stories that make people look at the world differently and hopefully for the better, and empower my community through it. And I didn't want to be tied down to one thing. And so, reading about Dilla and just how prolific he was and how he broke the mold and was willing to bet on himself and bet on new ideas and reinvent himself and challenge himself to stretch both from a creative standpoint and with his career I needed to read it at that time. I'll just put it that way.
And so then what is the outcome of it, or how does it affect your creativity? Does it give you confidence to do things the way you want to do them, or?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the essential ingredient, for a creative to really express themselves honestly is confidence. It's a forever journey. And I don't think it's like, oh, you have confidence and it just stays there. Sometimes that confidence could get knocked down, but you have these things that put that battery in your back that remind you, it's like, nah, man, like, fuck that. Like, look at Dilla, like Dilla, like my heroes, like they took risks and they bet on themselves. And that's always been my thing is like, trust your gut, dude. And it's not about, another thing I love about Dilla and his sound and him reconciling swung time and straight time is like leaning into the imperfection, and right.
The humanity.
Yeah, that's the word. Leaning into the humanity and the art and like.
There's an empathy with the humanity in a sense, right?
Yeah, you're spot on. And an audience feels that. It really translates. And again, I want to be very clear, like I'm not saying any of this to like, like I really love Bel-Air. I'm so proud of what we've made, but there were just other things I wanted to do. I was in such a different place in my life when the Bel-Air idea hit me. And, that span of 5 years, it's like you're ready to do other things and you're ready to grow and spread your wings and explore these other textures, and it feels like you're suffocating when you can't get those ideas out. It really does. It's like oxygen. So.
Okay, let's go into the book a little bit. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Can I hand you this copy and we'll
It's in much better shape.
Okay, page 12.
Our musical expectations are governed by where we're from. Pitting twos against threes in this manner was foreign to the European practice. What the Africans heard as music, Europeans heard as wrong, alien, uncivilized. When the Europeans came to impose their will upon the Africans, these cultural biases played no small part in their justification for what would become the most atrocious imposition in human history, the transatlantic slave trade.
I wasn't aware of this, but they controlled what kind of music they could play, right? They censored. They didn't want African music. They wanted 2/4, basically, instead of the threes.
Yeah.
And we're talking about tempos.
Yeah.
Right, or time signatures.
Well, yeah, but also like time feel, right? Because you can have something, you talk about time signatures. Were you, were you a music kid?
Yeah, I played drums.
Okay, great. So
my first drum machine was the 909.
Nice.
And I learned it, but I really used it as a click.
Okay, I love that, man.
I wasn't getting replaced by a drum machine. Like, to me,
what kind of music did you play? Like what
rock.
Sound? Rock? Like what within rock?
Well, I mean, I grew up playing in the church, so praise and then rock, and I could play. I could drop a beat.
Nice. But within that question, like, it was just more like that, the feeling you know, that was, and I think still to this day, like you play some like funky shit for certain people, and you know, it's like,
well, yeah, but there's a bigger evil hand in keeping somebody from feeling that.
1,000%, because music speaks to our spirit. Music motivates people. Music is like freedom. You know, it really is. Like when you listen to something that just makes you feel like you can like do more than the world expected of you, you do something that you feel so connected to your community, your culture. It's like community as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Go to 23. So this is about Motown. And I've studied Motown. I didn't know this.
Berry Gordy II and his wife Bertha, followers of Booker T. Washington's philosophy of self-reliance, opened a grocery store in Black Bottom that bore Washington's name, and other businesses too, instilling in their 8 children a similar entrepreneurial spirit. Burberry was the name of the family fund into which all of the Gordys, adults and children, were required to deposit regularly a modest reserve of capital out of which the children could draw a loan for any venture approved by the family members. In 1959, the Gordy son, Barry III, applied for a loan to start a record company, and after much debate, he was given $800.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
That a family has an entrepreneurial fund,
So
and the kids pitch their business plan, and that was how Motown started.
love that though, man. And
That's
like,
good parenting.
it's very good parenting, and there's like a lot of foresight involved in that, and belief in what you know what your family could accomplish, right?
Yeah, I would love to hear all the ideas that got kicked away.
Yeah, yeah. It makes you wonder, right? Like, you know, who had that like way outward idea, you know?
Okay, page 45.
Yeah.
And so he's talking about programming.
Yeah. All right. DeWitt and Maureen had programmed James with the music of their lives: jazz, soul, gospel, classical. His 10-year-old body contained at least 50 years worth of code, bass lines and drum riffs, melodies and cadences. But as he got older, James began to program himself.
And so his dad kind of programmed music into him by exposing him to it very young. But then there's just a point where he has to then create his own music.
He has to go off on his own path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did that happen for you?
Yeah, you know, I felt such a kinship to that experience for James, because that was very similar to my dad. My dad was a much older dad. When I was born, my dad was 50, right? And so you can imagine being, you know, 10 years old in the car with my 60-year-old dad. You know, he drove this Cadillac, and he had the seat way back with these like round front sunglasses, one hand on the wheel, whipping it hard, you know, through Kansas City, you know, driving downtown. And we'd be playing Frankie Beverly and Mays, Miles, Coltrane, Cannonball, like all the jazz greats. And so I'm 10 years old, you know, getting this download and finding an appreciation for these sounds. Like, I love those records. And like, you take all of that, and eventually 2 years later, you hear Madvillainy, and you start to recognize these through lines. And then you get older and you turn 18, and it's like you're off on your own path, but you still have that coding. That code is like download. It's part of your programming now, right?
What age were you
When
you felt like, now I'm gonna express myself?
you know, I only give pause because I feel like every year I step into that even deeper.
You think there's levels to it?
Absolutely. I think it's lifelong. I really do. You know, the world changes every day. We change every day as humans. And I think it's a lifelong venture to express yourself in the most honest way, and shedding all insecurity about what somebody's going to think about it, what somebody may criticize you about, and just in that freedom. But I'm really proud to say I feel like I'm going in the right direction every year. I feel like I get closer and closer to that place, and I have a deep desire and hunger to, you know, to continue to go deeper into that journey. So,
Page 77.
man, you guys are so on it, man. But those mistakes, man-made, machine-made mistakes, were thrilling to James. They reminded him of messy house parties and the the interminable rehearsals of his childhood, and the discord of musical devotion in the sanctuary of Vernon Chapel, the unity made from the chaos of humans interacting. It's in italics, the interacting part. The sound of air stayed with him. It remained until he found a way to make those airs on purpose. Ah, Dilla. Man, I wish I could have met Dilla, man. I wish I could have met Dilla.
Can you think of an example of something that you were creating that in the moment felt like a mistake, and then when you watched it back, it was like, oh, that's magic? What do they call? They call those like happy mistakes?
Happy mistakes. I'll be honest with you, man. It's like I'm at the point creatively where if it doesn't have a happy mistake, it's not right.
So your default setting is kind of like more jazz than quantized drum machines?
Absolutely. So like, I'll give you an example. It's like, when we rehearse a scene, and I want to be very clear with you, like I'm very specific as a director, very, very specific about what I want. But within this vision, for a sequence or a scene or a line of dialogue, it's very important that an actor has authorship over what they do. And oftentimes I'm looking for the thing that augments this idea and that takes it to the next level. And usually the most interesting choice is a little left of center. And so that when I'm behind monitor, we're the first audience, right? Behind monitor. And I get that feeling of surprise and honesty in it that elevates this piece of direction. That's when I know I have it. And so that's what I look for. And my job as a director is to put an actor or my ensemble, right, in a position to capture those happy accidents, right?
And that's the humanity.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, page 170.
Yeah. One evening, James felt like catching a movie instead of working. I love this part. One evening, James felt like catching a movie instead of working. They went to see a new action film starring Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne, a science fiction dystopia about a future in which machines declare war on humans. The concept wasn't foreign to an audience of Detroiters. In the film, a gifted computer hacker is told by a strange new friend that he and all humanity are imprisoned in a grid they cannot see called the Matrix, and that his destiny is to free everyone from it. He doesn't believe them. Their reverence for him makes him uncomfortable. They call him the One. He replies, "I'm just another guy." The hacker acquires some skill jumping in and out of that grid from the world of humans into the world of machines. In the end, he becomes a master. He can bend the grid to his will, everything and everyone in it. The machine world becomes just a cascade of readable ones and zeros to our hero, Neo. When they emerged from the theater, Common could see that his friend was having a moment. James couldn't get the words out to describe how he felt. And so to hear that, Dilla loved The Matrix, man, that was always a movie you watched growing up too. So like, and that's what he was doing is like, like taking a machine and making it like the interaction between humans and machines and what he was doing, I always love that part. And it's Dan, like we've talked about that moment several times. And yeah, it's a great passage.
194.
The significant women in James's life, whether in the professional or personal realms, were more caregivers than partners. As it was for many men in his circle of family and friends, women were either objects of desire to be chased and kept, or figures to worship and protect. Women who knew James casually experienced him as shy, sweet, and polite. And he was shy, sweet, and polite. But in his adulthood, James's main interaction with women happened in the controlled environment of the strip club, where the relationship between men and women was strictly transactional, and the power of choice resided in the men with the most money. James leveraged his clout to maintain his control or to escape consequences. Yeah. The realness in it too is like, sometimes in these books, like they can get a little like puff piecey,
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate Dan, like, exploring the complexity of Dilla. And
I think the way he describes it is really like right on.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's very honest, and it just speaks to the complexity of this guy who was just such a brilliant artist and human, but also he loved the strip club. And just like, opposites, these things that you wouldn't expect, but it was all a part of who he was and the perspective in which he created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about 233?
Halston would later speak on the moment as the most humiliating of his professional life. The Roots in Common ultimately made the cut with words whispered from producer Dr. Dre into Iveen's ear. But nothing was more indicative of their diminished horizons than when Jimmy Iovine, in a meeting with Halston, Questlove, Black Thought, and Richard Nichols, professed his admiration for the Roots, but blithely suggested that the best course of action for them would be to be the backing band behind his shinier star, Eminem, now the leading man of an autobiographical hit movie, 8 Mile. The suits ran the table. The Soulquarian got the scraps.
Have you experienced that?
What do you mean?
Just where the business people had a different opinion than the art.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, that's the battle, of working in any industry, any creative, industry is like, you've got the artists, then you have the people running the numbers, and you have to reconcile both sides and come out with a result that is favorable for both sides. But I find that to be a great challenge. Like, I actually happen to enjoy that. And the reason why is because, like, I think about like Quincy Jones. I think Quincy is somebody who, just so high level of an artist, but understood how to take high level artistry and make it commercial for the masses to enjoy. And I think both sides can exist together in harmony. But so often I think you have on one side of the table, it's like the art that is like super Sundancey, no disrespect to a Sundance movie, but something that like isn't really accessible for a lot of people, right? And it doesn't do well, the movie bombs or whatever, doesn't make its money back, and it kind of hurts the ecosystem in a way of people not wanting to invest in those types of movies. The flip side of that coin, you have people, the suits that want something so commercial, there's no soul in it, there's no heart in it, and people watch it and don't give a fuck because they can't feel it. They can't connect with it. There's no humanity. That's the word you used earlier. But then you have that sweet spot where it's like super thoughtful, art-driven, inspired, but it's something that can speak to a lot of different types of people. That's the art I'm interested in making. I think that's the art that can change the world. Because if I'm just making and preaching to the choir, how is that going to actually have an impact at scale? The idea is to create incredible art that's thoughtful, that isn't pandering, but is fly. It's fucking fly and interesting and compelling and inspiring, but do it in a way that, I'll give you an example. It's like, we kind of sit at these different tables, right? You go to the lunchroom, I heard this once, of just like, you sit at a different lunch table and, oh man, you got the art kids over there, Black people over there, white people over there, Latino kids over there, misfits there, jocks over there, and everybody like is segregated. Then you have people who can sit at all those different tables and have an authentic conversation. And I consider myself one of those people because my grandfather was a harpsichord maker, because my dad grew up on 12th Street. It was 50 when I was born, right? So I have all of that DNA within me to be able to sit with the jocks, because I played AAU basketball growing up. So I can sit with the jocks. I can sit with the art kids because I'm an artist. I can sit with Black people because I'm Black. I can sit with white people because half my family's white. You see what I'm saying? And have that authentic conversation and be able to sit there and say, you know what, maybe we should be sitting at the same table because here's all of the reasons and through lines why our experience is similar.
That's a great answer. It's a great answer. I think most people think that they're in conflict with each other.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, it is. It's usually not good art.
1,000%. All those things can exist. And it's like, I'm so excited about this next chapter, of the work. I'll give you an example, and then we can go right back to these passages. So when we were talking, my publisher, the PR lady, in the press release, they wrote a story about a Black girl making a movie. And I sat there and I said, like, why can't it just be a girl who happens to be Black? Like, why do we have to say Black girl and put it in this box and make anybody who isn't Black feel like, well, damn, maybe that isn't for me? This is for all people. You see what I'm saying? Right? And that's the lens in which I want to create. And these like labels I want to start, like, there happens to be a young Black girl and it's about her family who's Black. But it shouldn't be labeled as a young black girl making a movie. If it was a white girl, they wouldn't say a young white girl making her first film, right? And so, you know, what I hope to offer is these bridges into people realizing, like, I want, you know, a young Latino child, a young Asian child, a young white child to look at this and find inspiration from Nora's story, the same way a black child would. And I'm committed to putting Black people at the forefront of those stories, but also recognizing that I want all people to be able to read this story and feel they can see themselves in her motivation. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, I think that is so important for us to be able to move forward from so much of the bullshit that we experience and all this divisiveness. It's bullshit, man. It's fucking bullshit, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the divisiveness. I'm tired of people sitting at different tables pointing the finger at each other. Like, we haven't even scratched the surface in terms of human collaboration because we're afraid of each other. My message and what I hope to achieve while I'm on this earth is to build bridges through this art that I love. And I know we'll go right back to Dilla, man, but like, this is more than a children's book. This, to me, is a bridge of communication. And that's what I hope to achieve.
I mean, that's, in a sense, the power of art.
I'm gonna set this right here so y'all can get, is it in the white shot?
Um, 286. I just want your take on this. So ODB had passed away like 6 months earlier, and he woke up and said he'd been talking to him, right?
Yeah.
And he was telling him not to, not to get on the red bus or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I'll read this passage. James began laughing. So just for context, whoever's watching, you know, Dilla was sick, and he was basically murmuring in his sleep in the middle of the night. And he kept saying, OD, OD. And his mother, Maureen, was in the hospital watching him as he's basically hallucinating. And he wakes up and she asked him about it, right? So James began laughing. So she said, so who is OD? James looked at her. Why are you asking? She told James about his delirious one-sided conversation. James began laughing. ODB, he told her. Old Dirty Bastard, the rapper who died a few months ago. James gave her ODB's side of the dialogue. And that's Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang Clan. ODB said, don't get on the red bus. He said to stay where I was and he'd come back for me. And when he came back, he said I could have any kind of ride I wanted. Anything you want, you'll have it. Don't worry about it. He said to stay where I was. And Dilla was dying at this time. He was in the hospital at Cedars-Sinai. That's, man.
Have you ever talked to anybody on the other side?
I have. Twice. I guess I'll share a little bit. I did not expect to talk about this, but I'm glad we are. Yeah, I actually, connected with Charlie on the other side, and on the other side of, because I carried a lot of guilt for not, I literally had to choose between like directing this pilot and going to visit Charlie before he died. I was really close to getting on a plane. I was, but then I talked to my family and they're like, Charlie would want you to do that. Like, Charlie would strangle you if you didn't. And that's true. Like, Charlie wanted me to, but anyway, to make a long story short, had the opportunity to connect with him and put that to rest. And I've found peace with that situation. So I'm really thankful for.
Anything else in here that sticks out?
No, I just think everybody should know about James DeWitt Yancey. I really do. It's like, he's somebody who isn't really well known in the mainstream context. And if you know Dilla, you know him and you respect him and you respect his contribution. His influence is everywhere. It's everywhere. Your favorite producer is influenced by Dilla, no question. And I just think, even if you're not a beat maker, you're not in rap, if you're an artist and you care about culture and you care about artistry, you need to know about Dilla and his impact and his life. And, he's a guy from the Midwest who bet on himself and was a dreamer and changed music forever. And it's really unfortunate that he didn't, I don't think based off, I've never met him, of course, but like didn't fully feel like appreciated. And I think that's such a shame. And he died at the age of 32. He's only 32, just at the beginning, and did so much, was so prolific. And so I would just say it's very important that James gets his flowers. And so it's just great to be talking to you about this book, and I appreciate this opportunity to talk about it.
Big question.
Yeah.
How did Dilla Time by Dan Charnas change your life?
It's a book that made me more fearless as an artist and as a person.
That's awesome. That's great. You brought some other books.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
have you heard the Duchamp lecture, The Creative Act?
No, I haven't.
So this is named after a lecture by Marcel Duchamp that he did in Houston. That's like 14 minutes. You'd probably like it.
I'd love to. Could you send it to me after this?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I just brought some random things. You know, a lot of this is like,
We have some very similar tastes, you and me.
yeah, I think so.
I mean, especially with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you brought me a gift, which I'm very grateful for,
Yeah, of course.
which is Kansas City, an American story.
Yeah, just some early history of Kansas City. It's where I'm from. I'm very proud to be from Kansas City, and some of the most brilliant artists I know are from my hometown. And I'm very proud to be from Kansas City, and I'm excited there's so many great voices that I'm excited to continue to emerge. But that's just like a good kind of glimpse into, it doesn't have all the history, but I thought you'd find it interesting. So
Cool. Well, thank you. Thanks for doing this.
you're welcome. Yeah,
It was awesome.
pleasure to connect.
We are so excited to announce the Books That Changed My Life website. We made a way for you to show your book pride and that you love books. Hats, tees, hoodies. Check it out. Link in the description. Everybody needs a self-help hat.